I think that's a great question. I find that um, coming from a background in the fitness space, people are like, well, I don't have time to work out because I've got the job, I've got the kids, I've got the kids' practices, I've got the schedules, I've got the, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I'm totally like, sure, you have all those things. I'm not arguing that point with you.
Yeah.
Um, I don't want to minimize that somebody has a busy life,
Yeah.
but I find that usually when they're in that situation, they've fallen victim to what I call the creep. And that
Yeah.
is that like, originally they had like two or three things they wanted to do in life,
Yes.
whatever it may be. But then no, they took on this thing and they took on that thing and oh, and I can run to the grocery store here and I can run to this and they're always running everywhere, but nobody's actually running, they're driving. But I can like I can do all these things. And when I sit down with them, I'm like, well, what do you actually want to do in your life?
Yes.
Like big picture, little picture, all the stuff. And they either they don't know because it's
Yep.
been so long since they've looked at it, or they have what they want in their life. And I'm like, okay, well, where does that appear now? Because I don't see it at all.
Yeah.
So what is your process to try to drag that stuff, the good stuff to the forefront, the stuff that they actually really need to focus on, and put it right in front of them so that we can say, okay, well, how do we do this? Like, I'm sure you have a process for that. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I sure do with my clients. That's actually one of the main goals. That's one of the main reasons people work with me. My main batch or sort of like the core group of my clients, as I mentioned, are sort of solopreneurs or business owners who have a couple of businesses, and opportunity has swallowed them.
Mm,
That it just swallowed them up, and they've got so many things on. And one thing I always say to them is the skills, knowledge, and abilities that got you here are not the skill, knowledge, and abilities that are going to get you to the next level. It's just the natural state of the universe. The other thing that I think a lot of them struggle with, and I even struggle with this in my own business because I'm getting to that stage, is delegating, hiring
mm,
who's passing things on, because we grew our businesses doing a lot of these things, but then a lot of the things that we're now doing, we shouldn't be doing them. Somebody else
mm,
should be doing them. And it's hard for us to let go of that because we feel responsible for it. So that delegating, that dropping, that moving on, that can be hard for some people, especially the solopreneurs when they're getting to a certain level, when they have to start hiring VAs and finding who's to help them, to allow them to be in their unique ability, or allow them to actually focus on the big picture and drive the business forward. So it's bringing that realization to them. But that goes back to my main tool for doing that is a dumb shit list. It's so
mm,
simple. Mentally, emotionally, and physically, I have an exercise I do with all my clients within the first few sessions of working with them. And I ask them, well, when they're nice and calm and relaxed and they're feeling good, I ask them, well, what would you say is dumb shit in your life? What activities with your business or with your friends or family or whatever that is, what are you doing that you know you shouldn't be doing? And that could be from drinking a few beers at night to smoking a little bit of weed to like doing some type of invoices. The dumb shit list is literally everything that they feel like is an anchor to them. And then my challenge to them is like remove that,
mm.
remove all of that. I think Dan Sullivan said this quote, and when I first heard this, I pushed back on it because I disagreed with this, and now I fully agree with it because I'm starting to understand it as a capability. 80% of what you're doing today is holding you back.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm thinking back to when I had my training facility, and it's been a year now since I've moved on, sold it. So I've had a lot of reflection time on things that I did well, things I didn't do well, and one of the things that consistently held me back was not delegating enough, not
mm-hmm.
putting enough trust in my people,
Yeah,
um, and simply like continuing to do things that were, for me, probably not the best use of my time.
yeah,
Like you say, like invoicing and doing like all of the little check-ins and stuff like that. And not like little check-ins with people, but just like all of the little stuff. It would be better off if I had hired an assistant
yes.
versus hiring more coaches. I loved all my coaches, so if any of you guys are listening to this, I'm not saying I shouldn't have hired you, because a couple of them do. So I'm not saying I shouldn't have hired you, but I should have made more space to bring an assistant on and not thrown that in their laps,
Yeah.
allowed them to just coach,
Yes.
and stuff like that. That definitely is huge. Knowing knowing what to get rid of is massive. And I think the deeper you get in life, the whether it's in the realm of business or realm of just life, I think knowing what to get rid of is actually almost more important than knowing what to go for at a certain
Yeah.
point. You
Yes.
know,
I absolutely agree. I think we've referenced Nick Peterson, so I'm not going to use his
mm-hmm.
analogy of bumpers from his book
Mm-hmm.
because I'll use my own one, and I have this sort of analogy that I use with my clients where if you don't have your why sorted, which is like pushing you forward, it's the thing that kind of gets you up and get you going, and if you don't have your vision and your definition of what success looks like for you, pulling you as a magnet, you don't have these two forces. So do you know the way that when you have a piece of metal between two magnets, it sort of spins and it holds
Mm-hmm.
in place? When you
Yep.
have your why in place, it's a magnet that's kind of pushing you, and then you have your vision and your why in place, and it's pulling. You have your vision, it's pulling you, and you're in the middle. And when you have those things, those two powerful things really charged up, you're in the middle and you're spinning, and you're on target. You're in there. But when you don't have one of those things, your coin drops.
Mm-hmm.
Little piece of metal doesn't do anything. It doesn't get momentum. It doesn't work. So one thing I always say to my clients, if you really want to start building momentum in your life, if you want to, go places, you need to build those two magnets. You need to have both of those things. One pushing you, holding you in place, and the other one, on the other side. That's a really, really key thing. If you don't have that, you're missing out. And a lot, I would say 90% of the clients I deal with, they have a very vague why or none at all, and also they have a very vague vision of where they want to go or none at all. And it's so apparent to me that a lot of people got to that first level of success business wise within their corporate job. They aim for that 6-figure job, or they aim for that, I'm going to get this like healthy 6-figure business. I'm going to get that house and the truck and like whatever that is. The first level of success they got to, they achieved it, they got to it, and then they've gone into stasis mode
Mm-hmm.
because they didn't reload up. They didn't keep expanding. They didn't think, well, what's next? And I'm not what's next in a good way, not what's next in a bad, gotta chase after new things kind of thing, because that's also a trap. But that stagnation kicked in, that stasis mode kicked in. And I think a lot of the people I work with, they've kind of been in that 18 months or 2 years. They're like, I don't feel right. And then they come in, they're looking for help, and that's where they come to me. And that's the most obvious thing for me is the fact that they've lost that core why and that core vision, that were their bumpers to go back to use Nick Peterson's analogy from his book, which I might as well explain to the podcast listeners now because I mentioned it a few times. He talks about when you go bowling as a kid, you put the bumpers down the side of the bowling alley, so every time you bowl, you hit the pins.
Mm-hmm.
So when you remove the bumpers down the side of the bowling alley, you've got chances of hitting the gutter balls. And that's the same in life. If you don't have your bumpers up, you can get distracted and hit gutter balls quite often. So when you have those bumpers in place, you've got a bigger opportunity. Even if you throw the ball badly, you still got an opportunity of hitting a strike because you're aiming towards the same target all the time.